Hey everybody, Eric here with Women's History Moment video number 17, trying to get back on track. Alright, today we're spotting another USA Today Woman of the Year. This time, the recipient is from the state of Michigan, Dr. Mona Hanna. So let's dive in. We'll start as always with a picture. This is Dr. Mona Hanna. Dr. Mona Hanna didn't always know she wanted to be a pediatrician, but when asked how she describes herself, it's the first thing she says. A mission to serve children has been the driving force behind her work and advocacy over the years, from helping expose the Flint water crisis nearly 10 years ago to now leading a growing cash assistance program in Michigan for moms and babies. Hanna, who is 48, is also an Arab American, first generation immigrant, mom, professor, reader, and cat lover. She is among USA Today's 2025 Women of the Year. Hanna, whose family is from Iraq, was born in Sheffield, England. They immigrated to the United States, settling first in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan before moving downstate. She grew up in Metro Detroit and stayed in Michigan for school, going from the University of Michigan for college, Michigan State University for medical school, and Wayne State University for residency. In high school, Hanna signed up for an environmental club. Around that time, local activists were trying to keep a trash burning incinerator closed in Madison Heights. Kids in the neighborhood had higher rates of asthma, and people would wake up to a layer of soot on their cars. Her club got involved, attending protests and rallies and knocking on doors. She said, "At this young age, I began to understand the connection between what happens in the environment and people's health, but also the power of organizing and youth activism. That experience spurred her to become an environmentalist, but as she went through school, medicine, specifically pediatrics, drew her attention. Kids," she said, "are the most impacted by environmental conditions." Although she loved being a doctor, she found herself frustrated treating patient after patient for issues that were not prevented in the first place. When kids came in with gunshot wounds or were intubated because they couldn't breathe, why weren't the root causes, like gun violence and air pollution, being addressed? These type of questions led her to go back to school to get a degree in health policy. It was that gnawing frustration, which she felt as if her hands were tied and she couldn't change what was making our patients sick, that eventually led to RX Kids, a program that provides cash to expectant moms mid-pregnancy and the first year of the infant's life. She wanted to cut child poverty. A lot of what she was doing in Flint, from nutrition to childcare programs, was a bandage. She said, "We have failed to treat the biggest pathogen that makes our kids sick, and that's poverty." Hanna, Associate Dean of Public Health at the Michigan State University College of Human Medicine, said, "RX Kids was born out of a refusal to let children grow up in poverty." Hanna, who serves as director of the program, said, "At the core is listening to the people of Flint." What she kept hearing was how hard it is to just get by. Last January, RX Kids launched in Flint, where roughly 51% of kids under 5 years old are living below poverty, and recently marked a decade since a water supply switch exposed tens of thousands of individuals to lead-contaminated drinking water. The program, built on evidence of the effectiveness of cash transfers from other countries, gives pregnant mothers a $15,000 lump sum, and then after the baby is born, $500 a month for up to 12 months of the child's life. There are no income restrictions. RX Kids has so far distributed about $6.1 million to more than 1,400 families in Flint as of February. The program received $20 million in a state budget allocation to help it to grow beyond Flint to communities beyond Flint, to Kalamazoo and communities in Wayne County and the eastern Upper Peninsula. Now, Dr. Hanna's interview goes further with a Q&A session. I will link that information in the comments so that this video won't be that long, and you can go to that link and read the rest of her interview, which is pretty fascinating. And now, having gone through this, I remember when the news platforms picked up the incredulous story about the water in Flint, Michigan being tainted with lead, and that is one of the factors that caused not just children but adults to be sick in Flint, Michigan, which is a failure on the society as a whole. And that was talked about during the reporting at that time. One of the videos I found with her, she's being interviewed by Chris Cuomo at the time, who was with CNN, about her findings with the tainted water. And that is the short video that I'm going to queue up for you.
What were you seeing, and when were you seeing it?
Well, in late August, we were hearing that there was lead in the water. And that's when we started our research to see if that lead in the water was getting into the bodies of children. And what we found was alarming, but not surprising considering what was going on in that water without corrosion control. So we saw that, contrary to every national, state, and city trend, our lead levels were rising. And in the city of Flint, the percentage of children with lead poisoning doubled. And in some neighborhoods, it actually tripled. And it was directly correlated with where the water lead levels were the highest.
How sure are you of that, and that this wasn't a byproduct of many of the risks, especially that are inherent in life in a lot of lower socioeconomic conditions?
Yeah, so nothing else was going on in the city, and we looked at that. There was no demolition projects, no new lead plants, or nothing else was happening. And our lead levels had been going down in the city for years. And this was a huge jump, and it was directly correlated with where the water lead levels were the highest. That was the only thing that happened.
Is there any chance in what you saw in your research that it was just a pocket of the community? It wasn't that widespread, that this wasn't something that's being described as a pandemic?
No, the entire city was exposed. Every neighborhood had high water lead levels, and every neighborhood had children with high blood lead levels. And our research and the state's data really underestimates the exposure because the half-life of lead is short. It only lasts in your body, about half of it goes away in about 20 to 30 days. And when we were screening children at the ages of 1 and 2, that's when they're at risk for household lead exposure, like lead paint and lead soil. But lead in water affects an entirely different, more developmentally vulnerable age group. It's fetuses and it's babies on formula. So they could have had a peak lead level at 3 months or 4 months or 5 months. And when we screened them at 1 or 2, that level was no longer elevated. So this grossly underestimates this population-wide exposure.
And help us understand that just because the lead level dissipates quickly, as you just said, that doesn't mean that the impact does the same. Explain.
Right. So once it is in your blood, it causes that neurotoxicity. So even if your level has come down, it doesn't mean you weren't impacted.
What were you seeing?
All right, so there you have it. Some of you may remember this story a few years back, but were it not for Dr. Hanna catching it all those years ago and then doing all the testing and everything, we may have never known the levels of lead that was in Flint, Michigan's water system. And so, as always, I will link this video into the description as well as the interview information. And as always, please like and share this video, whether it's through YouTube, where it's posted, or my Facebook page, or my Instagram page. That on any of those platforms, you can share from there. and also like the video. Doesn't cost you anything to do any of that. But please, I would ask you to do that so I am very appreciative of that, so that my videos will be always up at the top part of everything. Granted, I am new to this still. Maybe some people may say that, Eric, you need to stop saying that you're new. You just need to learn, because I'm approaching 100 videos, but it's still a learning curve. All right. So that's the end of today's Women's History Moment. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Have a good evening.